गुड इवनिंग मैम।
Yes, good evening,
यस गुड
Preeti.
इवनिंग प्रीति। मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था कि जैसे कि पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी के लिए ओपी गावा है, तो मैम अभी उसको पढ़ना बेनिफिशियल रहेगा मैम, क्योंकि अब मैंने एक बार कोशिश करी थी लेकिन वो मैं समझ नहीं पा रही मैम कि मतलब उसमें क्वेश्चंस जैसे कि हैं तो स्टेटमेंट से ही, लेकिन उसमें काफी ज्यादा चीजों को घुमा घुमा के ज्यादा बोला है, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है मैम। तो अभी मतलब उसको कैसे कवर अप करें पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी वाले पार्ट को, अगर आप ये बता सकते हो तो प्लीज।
देखिए, मैंने जब पॉलिटिकल गाबा सॉरी ओपी गाबा पढ़ी थी तो मेरे को वो काफी इजी लगी थी, क्योंकि बहुत रिपीटेटिव है। बार बार हर चैप्टर में आपके कॉन्सेप्ट्स को रिवाइज करवा दिया जाता है, तो डिफिकल्ट तो मेरे को नहीं लगी थी। बट जो मैंने नोट्स प्रिपेयर कर रखे हैं ओपी गाबा से, वो मैं आपके साथ शेयर कर दूंगी। वो अराउंड 40 पेजेस के नोट्स हैं, ज्यादा अच्छे से प्रिपेयर्ड नोट्स नहीं है, मैंने अपनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए कर लिए थे वो नोट्स प्रिपेयर। तो आप उनको पढ़ लीजिएगा तो आपको शायद से हेल्प काफी मिल जाएगी, अगर अभी आपके पास टाइम नहीं है पूरी बुक को
And
पढ़ने
one
का।
more thing, because the political theory question is coming up again and again, we can have an session on Sunday on political theory. So how to approach, not to teach, but how to approach. So uh, don't worry about that. This Sunday we all would have a session. All the volunteers would be on board, and we can discuss the political theory. It's not that difficult as you are thinking. You don't have to read so much as OP का पूरा नहीं पढ़ना होगा, ठीक है? As Getika said, only few pages are of your work, so वो हो जाएगा. Abhi, I think we should start the class. I request.
Yes, I think we should. So today the topic that I'll be discussing, so the thinkers that I'll be discussing are Machiavelli and Thomas Hobbes. So first I'll start with Machiavelli and then I will move on to Thomas Hobbes. So if we talk about Machiavelli, then he was born in 1469. So before I go on teaching about his political theory and what were the some of the concepts that were given by him, I would like to uh, you know I would want you to understand its the history of Italy, in which he where he was situated. So he was a resident of Florence. So in the Italian city states at that point of time, in the 13th century, republican forms of government emerged. And these Italian city states, they were independent. रिक्वेस्ट थी आप हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में रखा करिए लेक्चर्स प्लीज. Okay, Devesh. Has anyone joined who does not understand Hindi at all today? Okay, there is one student, Lucky. Okay. So yes, so as I was saying, then Italian city-states, they were independent from the Holy Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Church. So they had their own independent political institutions and structures. So they used to be a podesta in the 12th century. So podesta होता था, वो basically क्या होता था कि एक administrator होता था. Podesta was an administrator who used to come from another city and administrate a city of not his origin. तो ताकि जो करप्शन हो सकता है, जो करप्शन की प्रॉब्लम्स होती है, नेपोटिज्म की प्रॉब्लम्स होती है, वो वहां पर ना हो. तो ये एक तरीके से पोडेस्टा फंक्शन करते थे, ऐसे एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स होते थे. एंड दे यूज्ड टू हैव अ टेन्योर ऑफ 1 year or sometimes also of 6 months. And after that their performance was audited, and if they didn't perform well, they used to be fined for it also. But by the 1393 in Florence also an Signori emerged, an executive council emerged, and it was more authoritarian in nature. So in Signori they used to have they did not used to have elections. It was more of a lottery system by which the members of Signori were appointed. But like many so the lottery system was not that discriminatory. Then after that, in 1434, by 1434, Medici family came into power, and the Medici family, Lorenzo de Medici, and so he ruled like a king. So the we can see a transition. Okay, Lucky has left, so I can use Hindi. Thank you. तो जो मेडिची फैमिली थे वो पावर के अंदर आ गए थे, और वो बहुत प्रिंस की तरह रूल करते थे, किंग की तरह रूल करते थे, काफी ऑथोरिटेरियन हो गए थे. तो हम एक देखते हैं कि एक ट्रांजिशन हो रहा है, कहाँ से रिपब्लिकन फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट से हम देखते हैं एक ट्रांजिशन ऑथोरिटेरियन फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट, मोनार्किकल फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट की तरफ हम ट्रांजिशन देखते हैं इटालियन सिटी स्टेट्स के अंदर, स्पेशली इन फ्लोरेंस. लेकिन बाय 1494 ये जो मेडिची फैमिली थी, इट वाज ओवरथ्रोन एंड अ ग्रेट काउंसिल वाज फॉर्म्ड। सो एक जो ग्रेट काउंसिल बनाई गई थी 1434 के अंदर, और अभी यहीं पर हम मैकियावेली की एंट्री देखते हैं। He was born in 1469, and by the time he got for 29, and he was about to enter the political life. So all these transitions were happening, and he entered the political life in 1494 when he was 29 years old. तो हम क्या देखते हैं कि जो मैकियावेली थे, उनके एक प्रोफेसर थे, वो यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ फ्लोरेंस से पढ़े थे। तो उनके जो प्रोफेसर थे, उनका नाम था मार्सेलो एद्रियानी। ये नाम मुझे जहां तक याद आ रहा है किसी एग्जाम में पूछा गया था। मार्सेलो एद्रियानी नाम के उनके प्रोफेसर थे। अब ये जो मार्सेलो एद्रियानी थे, इनको फर्स्ट चांसलरी दे दी गई थी इस ग्रेट काउंसिल के अंदर। फर्स्ट चांसलरी का क्या काम होता था? वो फॉरेन अफेयर्स को संभालते थे और वॉर रिलेटेड मैटर्स को देखते थे। और जो मैकियावेली थे, अपने प्रोफेसर की वजह से भी, और वो प्रोफेसर की वजह से उनको सेकंड चांसलरी मिल गई थी। अब सेकंड चांसलरी में क्या होता था? उनको इंटरनल अफेयर्स और डोमेस्टिक ब्यूरोक्रेसी के कामकाज को देखना होता था। लेकिन जब तक ये हम 1499 का पीरियड जब तक हम देखते हैं, तो 1499 तक ये दोनों चांसलरीज के फंक्शंस में काफी ओवरलैपिंग देखी जाती है। और मैकियावेली भी डोमेस्टिक डिप्लोमेट के रूप से दूसरे सिटी स्टेट्स के अंदर स्टेट्स को रिप्रेजेंट करने जाते थे। यस, सो अब बाय 1512 बाद में फिर से रिपब्लिक फेल and Medici came back into power. Medici family came back into power, and this time it was Giovanni something di Medici. I cannot pronounce it correctly. So he came into power, and Machiavelli was imprisoned because he was a supporter of the Republican form of government. He was imprisoned and was nearly executed, but he somewhere managed to flee the political turmoil, and he started living in a village. ठीक है, कंट्री साइड ही स्टार्टेड लिविंग। तो वहां पर उन्होंने फिर अपनी मेजर वर्क्स को लिखा, जैसे कि उन्होंने प्रिंस को लिखा, उन्होंने डिस्कोर्सेस को लिखा, डिस्कोर्सेस ऑन लिवी, और भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट उनके जो मेजर वर्क्स थे, उनकी लिस्ट मैं आपको बाद में दे दूंगी, वो उन्होंने वहां पर लिखे थे। अब ये जो आपको कई बार इनके दो मेजर वर्क्स हैं, प्रिंस और डिस्कोर्सेस ऑन लिवी, बहुत बार सुनने को मिलता है कि जो प्रिंस का जो टाइटल भी अगर आप देखते हैं तो ऐसा लगता है कि दैट जो मैकियावेली थे वो सपोर्टर थे मोनार्किकल फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट को, वो प्रिंस को सपोर्ट करते थे। जबकि डिस्कोर्सेस ऑन लिवी में वो बात करते हैं रिपब्लिकन फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट की, और उसको बोलते हैं कि रिपब्लिकन फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट बेस्ट फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट है। तो इसीलिए काफी थिंकर्स कहते हैं कि जो मैकियावेली है, ही वाज अ वेरी इनकोहेरेंट थिंकर। उनकी हम कोहेरेंसी नहीं देखते उनके पॉलिटिकल थॉट के अंदर। लेकिन काफी थिंकर्स ये रिजेक्ट भी करते हैं कि नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है, ही वाज नॉट अ इनकोहेरेंट थिंकर, ही वाज वेरी कोहेरेंट इन हिज पॉलिटिकल थॉट। अब हम बाद में देखेंगे कि वो कैसे कोहेरेंट हैं। तो जो प्रिंस में जो बात करते हैं, अगर हम उनका जो मेजर वर्क है प्रिंस है, और सीयूटी पीजी के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से भी प्रिंस को हमको उसमें ज्यादा फोकस करना है। तो जो प्रिंस है उसके अंदर वो बोलते हैं कि जो एक प्रिंस का गोल क्या है। एक गोल होता है किसी भी प्रिंस का, ऑनर, ग्लोरी एंड फेम। मेन तीन चीजें हैं उसके लिए, प्रिंस के लिए, किसी भी प्रिंस के लिए। लेकिन अब ये प्रिंस इन तीन चीजों को कैसे पा सकता है? आई होप नोबडी इज हैविंग प्रॉब्लम विद हिंदी सिंस लकी हैज लेफ्ट। मैम प्लीज टीच इन बाइलिंगुअल। ओके, आई एम ट्राइंग टू बी बाइलिंगुअल ओनली। हाँ, तो फिर उनको काफी ये तीन उनके मेन जो गोल्स होते हैं, प्रिंस के थ्री मेन गोल्स आर ऑनर, ग्लोरी एंड फेम, टू अचीव दीज थ्री थिंग्स। So how a prince could achieve these three things? So all the writers at that point of time, when even Machiavelli was writing, so there were some other thinkers who were also writing, and they were coming up with these mirrors of advice for the princes. So they were advising the princes that what are the virtues that you need to have, like what are the qualities that you need to have. So they said that these virtues, so they call it virtues or virtues, you can call the thinker, the prince need to have those virtues. But but Machiavelli's understanding of those virtues was very different from that of other thinkers, and that was the one thing that made him to stand out from other thinkers who were contributing towards mirrors of advice at that time. So what he said was that ki jo virtue hai, I'm explaining that only, that what is virtu or virtue, that what he meant by that. So he said that जब भी हम किसी चीज को अचीव करना चाहते हैं, so there is a fortuna, a goddess, which he called it fortuna. Basically she is the goddess of fortune. So वो काफी ज्यादा capricious है, and you know she is very whimsical. So that is the main hindrance when we are trying to achieve something. And yes, so we are trying to achieve something, it is the main problem. The fortuna is very the our fortune, that is the main hindrance in it, because it is very whimsical and capricious, very yes, so it's very whimsical. But then the role of virtu comes in. So virtu is the ability of a person to change according to the situation. So that is virtu. The virtu, he did not identify virtues with the cardinal virtues which were proposed by Plato, और द क्रिश्चियन वर्चूज क्या होती थी? पिएटी, क्लेमेंसी, मर्सी, मतलब ये रेवरेंस होनी चाहिए टुवर्ड्स गॉड, और मर्सी और लीनियंसी. दीज वर नॉट द वर्चूज दैट ही वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट. ही वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट द एबिलिटी ऑफ अ पर्सन टू चेंज अकॉर्डिंग टू द सिचुएशन. Yes. And he said that जो fortuna है, that is not bad. ठीक है, it also brings glory and wealth. All that we need to do is that we need to deal with the situations in an efficient manner, and when the goddess Fortuna will see that we are dealing with the situation according to it only, then it will smile at us and it will let us have our own way. So that was it. So the virtu is the ability to deal with any contingency, changing according to the situation. I hope it is clear now. Now we come like what his understanding of human nature. So the Machiavelli's understanding, so he believed, he had a negative understanding of human nature. He said that humans are prone to wickedness. ठीक है, and they act righteously only under compulsions. जब उनके ऊपर दबाव बनाया जाता है तभी वो अच्छे से एक्ट करते हैं, नहीं तो वो बहुत विकेड हो सकते हैं. ठीक है, वो विकेड हो जाते हैं. और ये जो वर्चू है, जो विर्तु है, ये हमारे को, और जब हम विकेड हो जाते हैं तो बेसिकली क्या होता है, हम अपने सेल्फिश इंटरेस्ट के अंदर ही सारा काम करते हैं. वी कीप आवर सेल्फिश इंटरेस्ट अबव द पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट, एंड दैट लीड्स टू करप्शन. ठीक है, एंड जो विर्तु है, that is important for us to deal with the Fortuna, the goddess Fortuna, and the corruption. For the prince, it is important to have virtu then. And he emphasized a lot on the political efficacy of the prince, कि जो prince है उसको बहुत politically efficient होने की जरूरत है. अब वो politically efficient कैसे हो सकता है, तो हमने ज्यादातर ये दो terms associate की जाती हैं with Machiavelli, fox and lion. So he says that a king should be cruel and violent as a lion when the situation demands, and as cunning as a fox when the situation demands. So only having rhetorical skills, persuasive skills are not enough. The prince should be very efficient in using military skills, in inflicting violence upon the people when the situation demands so. But then yes, so he is often charged, he is often accused of separating politics from ethics. कहते हैं कि बहुत अनएथिकल बंदा था, कि अपनी सेल्फिश इंटरेस्ट को, मतलब जो प्रिंस का जो सेल्फिश इंटरेस्ट है उनको मतलब आगे ले जाने के लिए ही सेइंग दैट यू कैन डू अवे विद एथिक्स. बट देयर आर सम थिंकर्स लाइक बर्लिन. ठीक है, in the originality of Machiavelli, it is said that he was not he did not separate ethics from morality, politics from morality. What he did, he divided it into like private sphere and political sphere. So he made a distinction between private sphere and political sphere. And he said that there are two kinds of moralities. One kind of morality for the private sphere, and another kind of morality that is to be used in the public sphere. And a well-functioning public sphere requires a well-functioning प्राइवेट स्पेयर रिक्वायर्स अ हेल्दी पब्लिक स्पेयर। तो वो कहते हैं कि जब तक आप पब्लिक स्पेयर को अच्छे से मेंटेन नहीं करेंगे तो आप प्राइवेट स्पेयर को भी आप मेंटेन नहीं कर पाएंगे। और पब्लिक स्पेयर में जो मोरालिटी चाहिए वो बहुत डिफरेंट है फ्रॉम द प्राइवेट फ्रॉम द मोरालिटी दैट यू एक्सरसाइज इन द प्राइवेट स्पेयर। तो आपको इस टाइम पे जो पब्लिक स्पेयर है तो जो आपकी जो प्राइवेट स्पेयर जो आपका सॉरी जो आपका पब्लिक स्पेयर है वहां पर आपको डरना नहीं है किसी भी एक्शंस को लेने के लिए। आपकी मोरालिटी, आपकी जो प्राइवेट मोरालिटी है, दैट शुड नॉट कम इन योर वे, in your way of pursuing the public interest। और public interest में जब आप काम करते you might need to be you might be required to indulge in violent activities। So Ishaya Berlin says that this is the case with Machiavelli, and you cannot say that he separated politics from ethics। Yes, so individuals, so here also we can see that Machiavelli had the individual's happiness in his mind throughout the way. That's why he says that the prince need to develop virtues, need to develop virtues in order to create a vibrant and stable political community, because only when you're having a stable and well ordered public sphere, only then the happiness of the individuals in the private sphere can be protected. So this is the trajectory that he is following. Then what was liberty according to Machiavelli? According to him, liberty is the liberty of one's possession and one's family life. He gave a lot of importance to the one's possessions and one's family life. He said that these two things give meaning to a person's life, and उसको जरूरी है कि दोनों चीजें प्रोटेक्टेड हों। इसीलिए वो बाद में डिस्कोर्सेज ऑन लिविंग के अंदर बोलते हैं कि जो रिपब्लिकन फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट है, दैट इज द बेस्ट फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इन ऑर्डर टू प्रोटेक्ट द लिबर्टी ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल्स। सो आई विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट दिस ट्रांजिशन फ्रॉम prince to discourses on Livy, that and if these two are inconsistent in nature or not, these two major works of Machiavelli। And he was in favor of civic militia, he was not in favor of mercenaries, कि जो mercenaries के फेवर में नहीं थे, वो civic militia को फेवर करते थे। वो कहते थे जो सिटीजन्स हैं उनको बिल्कुल भी झिझकना नहीं चाहिए अपनी स्टेट के लिए अपनी जान देने में, ठीक है। तो वो कहते थे कि सिटीजन का बिल्कुल एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण ये ड्यूटी है उनकी कि वो जो स्टेट है उसकी प्रोटेक्शन करें। तो यस, उसके बाद हम देखते हैं कि उनका रिलीजन के ऊपर क्या व्यूज हैं। तो काफी ये कहा जाता है कि जो मैकियावेली ही वाज अ सेक्युलर थिंकर, ठीक है, वो रिलीजन को पॉलिटिक्स से अलग करते थे। हाँ, बट उनकी जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी रिलीजन की, दैट वाज डिफरेंट, एंड यू विल read about it when you'll come here for your post graduation। So he was supporting the pagan religion and he was against the Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church। He vehemently criticized both। वो बिल्कुल इनके खिलाफ थे, क्योंकि उनका मानना था कि जो एक तो ये जो वेटिकन सिटी है दैट इज वेरी करप्ट, ठीक है। The closer you go to the Vatican City, you will find that a lot of corruption is prevalent in the Vatican City, because these popes and these bishops, they are leading like very luxurious life, which is contrary to the principle, which is contrary to the values that Christianity profess। तो वो कहते थे कि जो क्रिश्चियनिटी है वो बहुत इंसान को क्या होता है ना, अदर वर्ल्डली बना देती है। पीपल जस्ट कीप थिंकिंग अबाउट द ट्रांसडेंडल वर्ल्ड एंड इट टेक्स देम अवे फ्रॉम दिस वर्ल्ड, द प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ दिस वर्ल्ड, द रियलिटीज ऑफ दिस वर्ल्ड, एंड ही वाज अगेंस्ट इट। और बहुत ज्यादा ह्यूमिलिटी को प्रमोट करती है, बहुत डॉसिलिटी को प्रमोट करती है, जिसके वो खिलाफ थे। तो इसीलिए वो कहते हैं कि जो रिलीजन है दैट शुड बी सबऑर्डिनेटेड टू द स्टेट। एंड बट वो एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज बोलते हैं। वो क्या कहते हैं कि जो रिलीजन है ना, दैट कैन बी यूज्ड टू सर्व पॉलिटिकल इंटरेस्ट। जो प्रिंस है वो यूज कर सकता है रिलीजन को पॉलिटिकल इंटरेस्ट को सर्व करने के लिए। कैसे? क्योंकि जब हम रिलीजन की अगर हम बात करें तो हमको हमेशा हम क्यों बेसिकली रिलीजन में अगर हम देखें तो हम एक अलग सा डर होता है कि गॉड इफ विल नॉट फॉलो दिस, इफ विल नॉट डू इट, देन डू दिस, देन वी विल बी पनिश्ड। ठीक है, तो वो कहते हैं कि ये जो फियर है इंसानों के अंदर टुवर्ड्स गॉड और टुवर्ड्स द रिलीजन, ये जो फियर है उनके अंदर, दैट कैन बी यूज्ड बाय द प्रिंस इन एन एफिशिएंट मैनर टू प्रमोट हिज पॉलिटिकल इंटरेस्ट। जो पॉलिटिकल इंटरेस्ट है उसको प्रमोट करने के लिए आप यूज कर सकते हो। तो इसीलिए वो कहते हैं कि जो रिलीजन है दैट इज वेरी गुड एट प्रमोटिंग सिविक वर्च्यूज। Civic virtues, basically civic virtues, he talks about civic virtues in the discourses on Livy, where he says that these are the virtues that the citizens of a state needs to have to create a well ordered and stable society. So yes, and then there are some criticisms of Machiavelli. First criticism is that he's he has given out a very jaundiced view of human nature, मतलब कि बहुत ज़्यादा negative view है उनका human nature के towards। तो ये जो कह रही हैं कि जो हमारे जो प्रिंस हैं वो लोगों के फेवर के, लोगों के बेसिकली एक स्टेबल सोसाइटी क्रिएट करना चाहते हैं, या फिर वो लोगों की इंडिविजुअल हैप्पीनेस को प्रमोट करना चाहते हैं, तो हम कैसे यकीन कर सकते हैं कि प्रिंस ऐसा करेंगे? क्योंकि मैकियावेली का जो ह्यूमन नेचर का जो उनका ह्यूमन नेचर की अंडरस्टैंडिंग वो बहुत नेगेटिव है। तो कैसे कह सकते हैं कि जो प्रिंस है वो इंडिविजुअल हैप्पीनेस को प्रमोट करेंगे? ऐसा भी तो हो सकता है ना कि वो अपनी सेल्फिश इंटरेस्ट में काम करना स्टार्ट कर दें। तो दिस इज द फर्स्ट क्रिटिसिज्म। This is the criticism of Machiavelli. And for Machiavelli, he always kept public good about the about the private interest of the prince, क्योंकि उनका मानना था कि जो पब्लिक गुड है वो ऊपर है, कि और इंडिविजुअल्स इफ दे विल इग्नोर द पब्लिक गुड, दैट विल लीड टू करप्शन एंड दैट विल लीड टू अ डिसऑर्डर्ड सोसाइटी। अब हम बात करते हैं कि जो मैं कह रही थी कि प्रिंस और डिस्कोर्सेज ऑन लिवी के बारे में, कि कैसे इन दोनों के बीच में क्या इनकंसिस्टेंसी है या कंसिस्टेंसी है, क्योंकि प्रिंस के अंदर वो मोनार्किकल फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, और जबकि डिस्कोर्सेज ऑन लिवी के अंदर ही इज सपोर्टिंग रिपब्लिकन फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट। So like in both the books he give a very good example. He talks about the Roman Empire. So the founder of Roman Empire, he was Romulus. So he says that we need a founder, okay, in the beginning to uh, to prevent people from indulging into corrupt activities, and in order to restore a well ordered and stable society. And once that well ordered and stable society is restored, then it is the duty of the person, the prince, to dissolve his or her powers, and form a republican form of government. So in the prince, where he's supporting principalities, so he said that principality is the origin of the रिपब्लिकन फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट। पहले प्रिंसिपैलिटीज क्रिएट करनी पड़ेंगी, क्योंकि जो उनका जो आप देखेंगे तो ह्यूमन नेचर की जो उनकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है दैट इज वेरी नेगेटिव। ही सेज दैट दे आर प्रोन टू विकेडनेस एंड देयर विकेडनेस लीड्स टू करप्शन, इट लीड्स टू करप्शन। तो इसीलिए अब लोगों को जरूरत है कि दैट अ पर्सन कम्स, a person who is not corrupt and who is a founder and who can create a well ordered society. And he is not in favor of a group of persons to come and try to to create such a society, because एक ग्रुप को बहुत टाइम लगता है in order to form a consensus कि कैसे एक well ordered society को create किया जा सकता है। और वो टाइम और वो जो उनके बीच में एक यूनिटी नहीं क्रिएट हो पाती उन आइडियाज की वजह से। इसीलिए वो कहते हैं कि दैट वी नीड अ प्रिंस who works for the happiness of the individuals, who works towards creating a well ordered and stable society. And once that society is created, then he will dissolve his powers and he will create a republican form of government where more and more people can participate. So this was because both these books, if you'll see that they will return around the period of 1513, when he was in exile, when he was when the Medici family came into power and he was about to be executed. So at that time he wrote these two books. So there is not any inconsistency as much as I have understood about Machiavelli. So yes, this was Machiavelli. So and some of his books, okay, Yes, you can write it down, and do try to find out the years in which these books were published and in the years these books were written. So the first book is The Prince. There is Discourses on Livy, Art of War, History of Florence, Discourses on the Reform of the Government of Florence. So you can easily see if these two books are asked even in the CUT-PG, then the moment you will see Florence, you will be, you will understand that it was written by Machiavelli, because he was a citizen of Florence only. And the fifth book is the Golden S. The Golden S, ASS. I will repeat it. The Prince, Discourses on Livy, Art of War, History of Florence, Discourses on the Reform of the Government of Florence. Discourses on the Reform of the Government of Florence, History of Florence, Art of War, Discourses on Livy, and The Prince. तो अब आपके अगर कुछ डाउट्स है मैकियावेली से रिलेटेड बिफोर मूविंग ऑन टू होप्स, आई विल ट्राई टू क्लियर दोस डाउट्स.
What are the character of Prince?
See, the character of Prince, there are two analogies that he is somewhere using: fox and lion. That he should be cruel and he should be cruel and brutal as a lion. He should be able to use his military skills, uh, and then he says that he should be cunning also. Rhetorical skills use karna aana chahiye. He should be as cunning as a fox. So there are other like characteristics of a prince also, mm, like, but these two are main, I would say.
मैम, इज देयर एनी डिफरेंस? मतलब वर्च्यू और फॉर्चूना को फिर से एक बार बता दो.
क्या सर, फिर से बताइए, बोलेगा?
वर्च्यू और फॉर्चूना.
वर्चू और फॉर्चून के बारे में, ठीक है. तो बेसिकली वो क्या कह रहे हैं कि उनकी जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी वर्चू की, दैट वाज डिफरेंट from the virtues which were promoted by the Christianity, or the cardinal virtues, as was as was told by Plato, कि cardinal virtues में वही जो बोलते हैं courage, temperance and ये ये वाली जो उनकी वर्चूज थी वो, और ये क्रिश्चियन वर्चूज के बारे में बात नहीं करी. उनका वर्चू का सिंपल सा मतलब क्या है कि आपके अंदर वो क्षमता होनी चाहिए कि आप सिचुएशन के अकॉर्डिंग बदल जाएं. जैसी सिचुएशन होगी उसी के अकॉर्डिंग आप अपने अंदर अपनी स्ट्रेटेजीज, अपने बिहेवियर के अंदर चेंज लेकर आइए. वो वर्चू है. और वो कहते हैं कि एक फॉर्चून होता है, बेसिकली फॉर्चून होता है, और उसको क्या कौन रन करता है? दैट इज अ गॉडेस फॉर्चूना. और जो फॉर्चून है वो हिंड्रेंस बनता है. हम कहते हैं ना कि अरे किस्मत खराब हो गई, ऐसा हो गया. तो वो कहते हैं कि जो फॉर्चून है इट्स वेरी विम्सिकल, इट्स वेरी बहुत ज्यादा विम्सिकल है, अपनी विम्स के अकॉर्डिंग चलती है. लेकिन वो कहते हैं कि नहीं, अगर हम ये जो फॉर्चूना है, जो गॉडेस है, उसको अगर हम दिखाते हैं कि हमारे अंदर वी आर एबल टू चेंज अकॉर्डिंग टू द सिचुएशन, देन शी विल स्माइल एट अस, she will get happy and she would let us have our way. तो ये वो बात करते हैं.
थैंक यू.
Yeah, Geetika, can you again explain that the perspective on religion and the church? Like I missed that part.
Okay, religion and church. Okay, so like Machiavelli, he was saying that he always vehemently criticized the Roman Catholic Church and Christianity. He was against both of these because he believed that these two institutions, Christianity as a religion as well as Roman Catholic Church, they are very corrupt. The bishops and popes who claim to be nearer to the God, they are actually not even following the Christian values. They are indulging in luxuries which are not like which are not favored by the Christian values. So he says that this is very so he criticized Christian religion and Roman Catholic Church. And the other reason why he's criticized Christianity, because he believed that Christianity, Christianity promotes otherworldliness. There is a sense of attachment, a sense of, a sense of attachment is created with the otherworldliness, and that takes a human away from this world, the realities of this world. So he is more focused on this world, the problems of this world. And he said that it makes a person very docile, timid, mercy, leniency. These are the virtues, these are the values which are promoted by Christianity. And these virtues are not, these virtues are not required by a prince. He should be violent, he should be brutal, he should have the ability to change according to the situations. Yes, so that is what so that was his criticism of Christianity. But then he is very clever also. He says that we can use religion, the prince can use religion to promote his political interest, because when it comes to religion, when it comes to God, there is always a sense of fear in us, in the people, that if we will not follow this, we will be punished by the God. So he said that this fear of people can be used to promote the political interest, to create a well-ordered, stable society. We can use this fear to make people follow the rules, to follow the commands of the prince. So yes, so this was his understanding of religion.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we can we'll take questions for 4 more
Ma'am,
minutes, and then we will move on to Thomas Hobbes. Yes.
ma'am, can you repeat public sphere and private sphere again?
Private sphere and public sphere. So it was Berlin who says that when Machiavelli was accused of separating politics from morality and ethics. So it was Ishaya Berlin who comes in his defense. Okay. Ishaya Berlin says that we need to understand that Machiavelli is making a distinction between two spheres of life, between the public sphere and the private sphere, and the moralities that we need to pursue in these two spheres. These two are very different. So the public morality and private morality are different things. And in so yes, he says that, so we cannot say that he is separating politics from morality. It's just that he's asking us to follow different kinds of moralities in different spheres of life. And when it comes to public, if something, for instance, someone believes in non-violence, but the situation demands that you need to get yourself recruited in the army and fight for your country, you cannot say that it is against my morality, because that morality that you're talking about should be exercised only in your private sphere and not the public sphere. Because if the in the public sphere you will shy away from your responsibility towards protecting your nation, then what will you be doing? You will be endangering even your private sphere, because a private sphere, a healthy private sphere requires a healthy public sphere also, a well protected public sphere also. So yes, Ishaya Berlin comes in his defense when he says so.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, ma'am, Machiavelli was an atheist or what, ma'am? Because there is a line that he kept silence on the view on afterlife, eternity, soul, and salvation. Ma'am, can you please explain this?
See, he was against Christianity. Okay, he was against the religion of he was against Christian religion. He believed in paganism. Okay, paganism is a different kind of religion. About this you will study when you in your post graduation. So yes, he did not believe in this otherworldliness and all this. He supported paganism. Now I'm moving on to Thomas Hobbes. So Thomas Hobbes is a very important thinker, even from the point of view of CUET PG. Yes. So Thomas Hobbes was born in 1588 and he died in 1679. So yes, so Thomas Hobbes जो थे वो 1588 में पैदा हुए थे and he died in 1679. Whenever you are reading, studying a thinker, it's important to know the time in which he was situated, the time and space. It's very important because that helps you to understand that why did they come with such ideas, why did they form this sort of political theory. So in the same manner I will be doing as I have done Plato and Aristotle also. First I told you about the historical context, the political context, and the economic context. Similarly we will do with Thomas Hobbes also. So talking about Thomas Hobbes. So first we'll talk about the historical context of Thomas Hobbes. So you will see that at that point of time, England was witnessing a civil war between the supporters of the Stuart kings and the supporters of Parliament. So there was a conflict going on between that which one is superior, whether the monarch should rule the people or the Parliament should rule over the people. Okay, so this was the conflict which was going on between the two. So now there are 2-3 things that you need to understand, that the king at that time, so there was an economic conflict. Economic conflict was also going on was also going on in England. So what happened, that England, it became a very big exporter of wool and grain. So that led to commercialization of agriculture in England. And in order to support commercialization of agriculture, you need to have large tracts of land. So an enclosure movement was started. So village commons, village के जो common land से, they used to be encroached upon by the manors, and they were enclosed so that they could support the commercialization of agriculture and they could increase their exports. The king tried to stop the enclosures, but the Parliament opposed him. King who supported the enclosures, tried to stop the enclosures because he believed that it will ruin the agriculture, but Parliament opposed him. And tried, so then he tried to rule without the Parliament. He tried to do away with the Parliament, and that led to a civil war between the two in 1642, and this civil war ended in 1649. Similarly, there were also religious conflict going on. Protestantism versus Catholicism. So Catholicism, that was the dominant religion at one point of time, but then people like Martin Luther or Calvin, they came and they saw that the church, it's very corrupt. The Roman Catholic Church was very corrupt, and it was, intermediaries were established between the God and the people, between the devotees. So they challenged the authority of the church, and this came to be known as Protestantism. A new faith was created, which was more practical in nature. So there was this conflict going on between Protestantism and Catholicism, and this conflict was resolved in 1555 by the Peace of Augsburg. So Peace of Augsburg, this question might also come in your IR, under your section of IR, international relations. So in this Peace of Augsburg, what was decided, that whatever will be the religion of the prince, that will be the religion of the subjects of the prince. But it also gave religious liberty to the people. It was said that if you do not if you do not have the same religion as the prince, then you can emigrate, you can become the citizens of any other nation, state, or empire where the religion is by the king. So the between the Parliament and the king. And in order to resolve this conflict, he came up with his new concept in political theory. It's said that he supported absolute sovereignty in Human Nature, a book which was written by him. He supported absolute sovereignty of the monarch. And but the royalists were also not happy with him. They were also about to execute him, and then he had to flee also. So what is it that how when he's supporting the absolute sovereignty of the king, then what made the royalists to go against him? So this is a very interesting thing that we will try to understand. And this happened because, he made a transition from the medieval Western political theory, which was based on virtues. As we just saw that he, the Plato, Aristotle, they were very much focused on virtues. But he gave a modern political philosophy, and his modern political philosophy was focused on individual liberty. So he brought individual liberty in the foreground. Yes. So Hobbes is a contractarian thinker. You must be knowing there are three contractarian thinkers: Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. So what are these contractarian thinkers are saying? So Hobbes is saying that whenever a person enters into a contract, that should be voluntary. It should not happen under any compulsion or under force. So it should be a voluntary action to enter into a contract. So this was the and that also became the basis of political obligation, that when you enter a contract, then you're only then you're obliged by that contract. So then his major work is Leviathan, and the full name of this book was Leviathan: The Matter, Form, and Power of a Commonwealth, Ecclesiastical and Limit. So this book was written by Thomas Hobbes. And if you look at the cover page of this book, you will see a sea monster. So Leviathan is a sea monster, and you would see that, in that sea monster, when you will look at that picture, you will find that it is filled with people. It is filled with, human beings. So from there only we can understand that somewhere he was talking about the people. He was not an absolutist in that sense, although he did have a tinge of absolutism in him, but he was not that absolutist. So now we'll go further. We will try to understand that what I'm trying to say. So he says that जो man है, they created an artificial man, and this artificial man, it's nothing. It's the commonwealth. It is the state. It is the people who come together and create the state. And it is state which has been called by him Leviathan. So he says that we don't need virtues to need a happy life. Happy life, having, pursuing a happy life is the goal of Hobbes also. But he said that we don't need virtues for it. We need a strong state for leading a happy life. So yes, so जब उसके स्टेट के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, जिसको आर्टिफिशियल मैन भी कहते हैं, क्योंकि जो नेचुरल मैन तो गॉड ने क्रिएट किया, हम लोगों को क्रिएट किया, बट वी पीपल हैव क्रिएटेड समथिंग इवन मोर मैग्निफिसेंट, एंड दैट इज आर्टिफिशियल मैन, द स्टेट वी हैव क्रिएटेड. एंड दिस स्टेट, इट्स मैटर एंड आर्टिफिसर. बेसिकली इसका जो मैटर है और इसका जो आर्टिफिसर है, आर्टिफिसर क्या होता है? समवन हु हैज द स्किल टू क्रिएट समथिंग. इट्स बोथ मैन. इसका मैटर भी मैन है और इसका आर्टिफिसर भी मैन है. सो यू सी द सेंट्रल पोजीशन दैट हैज बीन गिवन टू मैन बाय Hobbes. So it's a central position. So he keeps man in the center of everything. So then he talks about human nature. So it's man and artificial. Since man is the center of his whole political theory, then we need to understand that what was his understanding of human nature. So he says that human nature is a matter in motion, because he was very much influenced by the scientific inventions which were happening at that point of time. He tried to explain his political theory using a scientific method. So he uses a scientific method, and this question might be asked because I have seen it being asked in one of or two of the some time back. So yes, so human being is a matter in motion, and we human beings have two kinds of motions. One, vital motions, for example, breathing, circulation of blood, the heartbeats, or these are the vital motions. And then there are voluntary motions. Voluntary motions, he calls voluntary motions also endeavor. ठीक है। एंड वॉलंटरी मोशंस को क्या कहते हैं कि दो तरीके के वॉलंटरी मोशंस हैं। वॉलंटरी मोशंस दो तरीके के, एक है एपेटाइट्स एंड डिजायर्स एंड सेकंड एवर्जन्स। Appetite and desires basically a movement towards a thing, something that you like, towards it. And aversion means a movement away from a thing. So there are two motions. So we human beings are nothing but bundles of appetites and aversions. ठीक है?
Ma'am, can you repeat it?
Yes, sure. So like जो होप्स हैं वो कहते हैं कि जो ह्यूमन बींग्स हैं वो कुछ नहीं है, दे आर मैटर इन मोशन। क्योंकि उस टाइम पे क्या हो रहा था, बहुत साइंटिफिक इन्वेंशंस हो रही थी इन इन यूरोप, और जस्ट गैलीलियो थे, और इस पूरे इलाके के अंदर साइंटिफिक इन्वेंशंस हो रही थी। तो वो अपनी ट्राई कर रहे थे कि मैं अपनी पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी को आई विल ट्राई टू मेक इट डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द पॉलिटिकल थ्योरीज ऑफ अदर थिंकर्स एंड आई विल ट्राई टू एक्सप्लेन इट यूजिंग साइंटिफिक मेथड्स। तो साइंस से काफी इन्फ्लुएंस उस टाइम पे, तो इसलिए वो कहते हैं कि जो इंसान है वो मैटर इन मोशन है। और देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ मोशंस। पहला मोशन क्या है, वाइटल मोशंस। वाइटल मोशंस क्या होते हैं कि आपकी जो ब्रीदिंग है, ब्लड सर्कुलेशन, ब्रीदिंग, जो भी आपकी बॉडी की जो इनवॉलेंट्री एक्शंस हैं वो है। और एक है वॉलेंट्री एक्शंस। वॉलेंट्री एक्शंस को कहते हैं कि एंडेवर भी आप इसको कह सकते हैं, एक दूसरा नाम वो एंडेवर यूज करते हैं इसके लिए। और वो कहते हैं वॉलेंट्री मोशंस क्या है, जो आपके कंट्रोल के अंदर है। वॉलेंट्री का मतलब यही होता है जो आप अपने आप से करते हैं, अपनी विल से करते हैं। और देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ वॉलेंट्री एक्शंस। फर्स्ट इज एपेटाइट और डिजायर्स एंड सेकंड इज एवर्जन्स। एवर्जन्स मींस बेसिकली when you don't like something you move away from it, so that is aversion. Appetites, it's to a motion towards an object of your liking. So we can say that Bentham, jo Thomas Hobbes the, he was a precursor of Bentham in some ways, because अगर हम बेंथम के बारे में बात करें then he also talks about pain and pleasure. So we see traces of that in Thomas Hobbes also. So yes, so he says that humans are nothing but bundles of appetites and aversions, and we human beings are very much focused on satisfying one desire after another. ठीक है, तो वो ये बात करते हैं कि हम अपना डिजायर को सेटिस्फाई करना चाहते हैं, वी आर वेरी मच फोकस्ड ऑन दैट एंड दीज डिजायर्स। so we have passions, and this our reason. He also says that human beings does not only have passion, they also have reason, and their reason is guided by their passions. So it is the slave of their so reason is the slave of their passions. And he says that we use our reason to satisfy our desires. Okay, so happiness is the goal of human life, he believes so. And what is this happiness? What is this happiness? This happiness comes from the satisfaction of our desires. Okay, so that was his understanding of human nature. See, then he talks about the state of nature. ठीक है, state of nature क्या होता है? Basically there is an interaction, it's a sort of basically the interaction happening between the people without having any political authority to control their interactions or to guide their interactions and to monitor their interactions. It's happening in the absence of a political authority. So that's what he calls a state of nature. And he says that this state of nature is a state of war, because क्या होता है state of nature के अंदर there are three qualities of human beings. Basically all human beings are equal. Natural equality है, descriptive है, और इम्पेरिकल। बेसिकली वो काफी डिस्क्रिप्टिव है। बेसिकली हमारे अंदर सेम फिजिकल एबिलिटीज हैं हमारी। वो कहते हैं कि सबके यही है, सबके पास हाथ, पैर, नाक, कान, ये सब कुछ है। तो वो कहते हैं नेचुरल इक्वालिटी है, ठीक है, बराबर की पावर है सबके अंदर। तो कहते हैं कि इसी तरीके से हम सब इक्वल हैं। देन ऑल ह्यूमन बींग्स आर फ्री ऑल्सो। देन ही सेज दैट ह्यूमन बींग्स हैव रीजन ऑल्सो। ठीक है, these are the three qualities that people have in the state of nature. So and when these people having equal who are naturally equal, who have the equal physical capacities, they indulge into power struggle to satisfy their desire. So that creates a very chaotic situation, because everyone is trying to satisfy their desire. There is a struggle for power going on in order to satisfy their desires. So there is hostility, there is no security, because there is no political authority to guide the behavior of people. So life of man is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short in the state of nature. Okay, so that's why, so this is how the state of nature is. Then he talks about the laws of nature. It's not that in the state of nature there are no laws. There are laws in the state of nature. For instance, there are 19 laws of nature. Because why do we have laws of nature in the state of nature? We have laws because we are rational beings. We know, we have used our reason to form these laws. So what are the, like, I will tell you about 4 laws that four, like there are 19, but I'm telling you 4 laws. First is that to seek peace and to follow it. They know that it is important to have a peaceful life, but they are not being able to have that sort of life, because there is a power struggle going on, because there is no political authority. Then to lay down the rights to all this and equal liberty, basically saying that we should lay down our rights and give it to any political authority, and this laying down of the rights should be done by all. ठीक है, और पॉलिटिकल अथॉरिटी को हमको पावर देने की जरूरत है, but that is not happening. Then perform their covenants made. So when he says perform their covenant mates, he said that when a covenant is made, it is also performed at the same time. So it's a very powerful statement that he uses. So performance and making of the covenant is happening at the same time. It is not like that the covenant is made first and then it will be performed. It is not like that. Then he says that every man acknowledges the other for his equal, for he is also equal by nature. We need to acknowledge our natural equality. But these rules are not followed because there is no one to enforce these laws. And since we are rational beings, even in state of nature, and we know that this life that we are leading, it's not fruitful, because there is so much insecurity that we are not being able to to set up industries, because हमारे पास insecurity है कि हमारे को अगर हम अपनी efforts किसी चीज में डालेंगे, that will not be respected by others and it will be encroached upon. So there is no development happening in the state of nature. तो इसीलिए हमारे पास लेकिन रीजन है, और इसीलिए हम क्या करते हैं, वी फॉर्म अ सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंड वी क्रिएट अ स्टेट. So what we do is that we give up our natural rights in favor of a sovereign, and we promise, ठीक है, to obey his laws. So what is like the social contract क्या कर रहा है? Social contract is doing 2 things. First, it is creating a state. Second, it is creating a sovereign. So he creates he makes a distinction between the state and the sovereign. State and sovereign are not both the same things. Sovereign is just the representative of the state, and subject owe their allegiance to the sovereign as the representative of the state only. Yes. So similarly जो state है तो independent of the king है, ठीक है. और ये जो कहते हैं कि हमको एक इंसान के अंदर अपनी पावर को वेस्ट कर देना, अपनी पावर देनी है, तो वो कहते हैं कि इट कुड बी अ पर्सन आल्सो और एन असेंबली ऑफ पर्संस आल्सो. ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई वो इस तरीके से कि एक ही अंदर को इंसान को देना है, ठीक है. देन ही टॉक्स अबाउट सोवरेनिटी, ठीक है. तो जो सोवरेनिटी है दैट इज वेस्टेड इन वन पर्सन और एन असेंबली ऑफ पर्संस, जो कि गवर्नमेंट को एक तरीके से फॉर्म करेंगे वो लोग. और जो सोवरेनिटी है ना, दैट इज एब्सोल्यूट. So this is where the tinge of absolutism we see in Hobbes. He is all the way talking about. But जो टेलर एंड वॉरेंडर है, आपको याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है, मैं सिर्फ ऐसे बता रही हूँ. टेलर और वॉरेंडर कहते हैं कि जो उनकी जो थ्योरी है ऑफ ऑब्लिगेशन, दैट इज मोरल थ्योरी ऑफ ऑब्लिगेशन. क्यों है? क्योंकि इवन इन द लॉज ऑफ नेचर, जो लॉज ऑफ नेचर हमने देखा था, वो जो लॉज ऑफ नेचर थे, दे वर द कमांड्स ऑफ गॉड, ठीक है. क्योंकि कोई पॉलिटिकल अथॉरिटी तो है नहीं जिन्होंने उनको वो लॉज ऑफ नेचर दिया. सो देयर इज इट इज द कमांड्स ऑफ द गॉड, ठीक है। तो कमांड्स ऑफ गॉड थे और उसके अंदर एक क्या था, एक जो हमने लॉ देखा था वो क्या लॉ था, बेसिकली परफॉर्म देयर covenants made. So if you have made a covenant, you are supposed to abide by it. Yes. So it is said by Taylor and Warrender. He says that sovereign does not create the grounds of obligation. He merely creates the condition where the grounds work. Sovereign political grounds of obligation नहीं create करा. Grounds of obligation तो were there in the state of nature also, but there was no one able to enforce them. So the sovereign has created such conditions where the grounds of obligations have become functional. So that's what he's saying. Then yes. Then there's a criticism also. He's also criticized that जो minimal state के बारे में बात करते हैं, ठीक है, अगर ये minimal state के बारे में बात करते हैं, लेकिन but there's no guarantee, ठीक है। गारंटी क्या दे रहे हैं कि ये जो इन्होंने बोला है मिनिमल स्टेट के बारे में ये चीज होगी, तो हम गारंटी नहीं देखते हैं उनके वर्क्स के अंदर कि वो कैसे इंश्योर करेंगे दैट अ मिनिमल स्टेट ओनली इज एस्टैब्लिश्ड। तो हाँ, ये बात करते हैं दादा। So yes, and the contract that he talks about, he says that this contract is finite and this is irrevocable, because the moment you will revoke this contract, you will be back into the state of nature. And it's very important to understand that sovereign was not part of the contract. It was a contract which was made by the people, and they are the ones who created a state. So sovereign came into picture later on. So sovereign was not there. He is not part of the contract. So he still retains. What was the point? एक second, Sachin. So yes, contract is irrevocable and finite. So जो वो party नहीं है उसके contract के, तो he is still the sovereign. He still has his natural rights intact with him. तो उसके पास still natural rights हैं. He is the one who decides what's right, what's wrong, what are the laws, what is justice, what is injustice. So there we see that he had some remnants, or like he had some elements of absolutism in Hobbes. We see some elements of absolutism in Hobbes. यस, तो एक्सटर्नल इम्पेडिमेंट्स टू मोशन के बारे में जब होप्स अपनी लिबर्टी को एक्सप्लेन करते हैं तो वो कहते हैं कि उनका लिबर्टी का डेफिनेशन क्या है, दैट इट इज द एब्सेंस ऑफ एक्सटर्नल इम्पेडिमेंट्स टू मोशन। बिकॉज क्या है कि वो तो सपोर्टर है मिनिमल स्टेट के, तो ये जो एक्सटर्नल इम्पेडिमेंट्स लग रहे हैं हमारे ऊपर, अननेसेसरी एक्सटर्नल इम्पेडिमेंट्स, वो उसके अगेंस्ट थे। तो मे बी दैट व्हाट ही मेंट बाय external impediments, and that was his concept, his understanding of liberty. I hope it's clear to all the students. So are there any questions? और इसकी जो आप बुक्स हैं वो आप इंटरनेट पे भी मैं लिखवा भी सकती हूँ, बट आप विकिपीडिया पे जाके अगर आप डाल देंगे होप्स, उनका विकिपीडिया पेज खुल जाएगा और आप उनकी जो मेन वर्क्स हैं उनको लिख लीजिएगा और उसको क्रोनोलॉजिकल ऑर्डर में भी याद कर लीजिएगा, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, ये भी पूछा जा सकता है ये बुक कब लिखी गई थी।
मैम साइंटिफिक मटेरियलिज्म क्या होता है?
देखिए जो होप्स थे ना वो मैकेनिस्टिक मटेरियलिज्म के बारे में बात करते हैं, ठीक है। साइंटिफिक मटेरियलिज्म आप शायद उसी को कह रहे होंगे, लेकिन वो उसको कहा जाता है कि जो होप्स थे वो मैकेनिस्टिक मटेरियलिस्ट थे। जैसे कि मैंने आपको बताया कि वो जो साइंस से काफी ज्यादा इन्फ्लुएंस थे, इसीलिए उनके लिए मटेरियलिज्म सब मतलब जो बेसिकली जो वो देख रहे हैं, जो एम्पेरिकल रियलिटीज हैं वो मटेरियलिज्म को सपोर्ट करते हैं बहुत ज्यादा। हाँ, साइंटिफिक मटेरियलिज्म इज रिलेटेड टू मार्क्स, ही इज रिलेटेड टू मैकेनिस्टिक मटेरियलिज्म। तो जो मैटर इन मोशन के बारे में वो बात करते हैं और वो कहते हैं कि इंसान क्या है, मैटर इन मोशन, एंड ही इज सपोर्टिंग मटेरियलिज्म। सो दैट्स हाउ ही इज सेइंग लाइक इट्स मैकेनिस्टिक, एंड बिकॉज ही इज understanding of human nature is also mechanical in nature, and then he's supporting materialism. So it's from there that comes mechanistic materialism.
Ma'am, what was the third laws of a state of nature?
It's not the third law. I think it's the ninth law. It's not in the chronological order, but some of the laws which I found important to explain the concept, so I added them. So the third one which I told was that the perform the covenants made. Perform the covenants made.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, perform the covenants made. ये जो मैंने आपको बताया परफॉर्म द कोवेनेंट्स मेड, ये आपका सीयूटी पीजे के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है, बट ये बेसिकली कह रहे हैं कि जब कोवेनेंट बनाया जाता है, बेसिकली आप क्या, जब भी कुछ कोई ट्रीटी आप बनाते हैं तो पहले क्या होता है, बनती है, उसके बाद इट इज एनफोर्स्ड. बट होप्स इज सेइंग नो, covenant is made and performed at the same time. The moment you make a, so this performance and making of the covenant are both happening simultaneously. So when the state is formed, when the state is made, it is to be performed also at the same time. So maybe, so that was it. Theory of political obligation. So is theory of political obligation is not very difficult. He's just saying that the absolute sovereign must be respected. Sorry, must be obeyed. Okay. And then there are other thinkers who have given their views on his theory of political obligation. Okay, there's Theater and Warrender and all this. So that's not important from the CUTPG point of view.
Ma'am,
Anji?
can you repeat the voluntary motions and explain it?
Voluntary motion.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
सो वॉलेंट्री मोशंस बेसिकली क्या है कि आप वॉलेंट्री मतलब से समझ जाइए कि जो आप अपनी विल से कर रहे हैं. तो वह कहते हैं कि देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ वॉलेंट्री मोशंस. फर्स्ट द appetites and desires, and second aversions. So appetites and desires are the movement towards the object of your liking. On the other hand, aversion is the movement away from the object of your disliking. ठीक है, तो वही कहते हैं कि humans are bundles of appetites and passions. So appetites and aversions. So we are trying to satisfy our desires only. We are moving away from the things which we do not like, and we are moving towards the things which we like. Because we are doing it because happiness is our ultimate goal. It is happiness that we are pursuing. So it was it. This was his mokshan wala concept. So the only right which is given to us is the right to preserve ourselves. So when we come from the state of nature and enters into a contact, the only right that we have is the right to preserve ourselves. That when the absolute sovereign tries to encroach upon our lives, it tries to take away our life, then we have the right to preserve it. But at the same time, nobody else has the right to protect our lives on, my life on, like my life on my behalf. Like my friend cannot help me in protecting my life. It is me who is required to protect my life. Yes. So this was it. Is it okay to all the students now?
So I think
So I think we should bind up now.
Yes. Actually, I need to go somewhere also at 6:30. So I am Seema. Yes, Seema.
Ma'am, you told about the proletariat and Protestant, Catholic and Protestant. Ma'am, I think that was the background of Machiavelli, because Machiavelli is regarded as a child of Renaissance, and at that period, that was the 30 years of religious war, ma'am. So I think this is the background of Machiavelli, not
It's the
Hobbes.
background of everyone, Seema.
Just go
वही
Just go
this
through
is
the
the
resources
background.
again.
it's a
If we
background
It's
of
see
background of Locke, it's background of Hobbes, it's
Machiavelli,
background of Machiavelli,
and it is
and it
still
is still
war
the
is
war
going
is going between the Protestant and
at
Catholic,
that
but at
time
that
it
time
was
it was
more.
more. So
It's a
it's a
background of
background
Hobbes
of
too.
Hobbes too.
Okay.
I think I'm I think we should call it a day because I need to go somewhere at 6:30. Like if you have any doubts you can ask the person who will be teaching you tomorrow also, or you can post your you can write your doubts in the Telegram channel also.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, kindly provide today's lecture on Telegram group.
Okay, today's lecture will be uploaded. I'm hope Sachin has recorded the lecture. Sachin was recording the lecture, it will be uploaded. So you don't worry about that. Yesterday we could not upload it because some technical problem happened at my end. So yes, sorry for yesterday. But Sachin uploaded a very, well explained video on our YouTube channel. So you can have a look at that also. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Thanks,
good day.
Pratika. Thank you.
बड़े ही एक सेकेंड